Are you a Montreal Canadiens fan who wanted to see the team acquire Matthew Knies from the Toronto Maple Leafs this trade deadline? Are you a Leafs fan who is wondering what the Canadiens would have given to Toronto to make this happen? Are you a fan of either of these teams and you have just been eager to see what the details actually were because we hadn't gotten them yet? Then you're in the right place. Because courtesy of David Pagnotta and the fourth period, we now know what the Toronto Maple Leafs Knies trade talks looked like with the Montreal Canadiens, and we know the price that was discussed. It's all going to be here in this article. We're going to leave a link in the description down below. David Pagnotta promoted the piece with this tweet. As trade chatter picks up, sources tell me Montreal and Toronto agreed to a trade involving Matthew Knies ahead of the trade deadline. But the deal didn't get through in time. Will they revisit it with a new Maple Leafs GM? More here, plus Larkin, Nurse, Eakins, and more. Okay, let's just bring this article back up. Trade talk getting louder. Knies was almost a Hab. Again, link in the description down below. There's Matthew Knies and all his celebratory glory. Let's go out there and highlight what Pagnotta is talking about here. With the Montreal Canadiens now regrouping after being knocked out by Carolina in the Eastern Conference Finals, there is work to be done, and Kent Hughes is already on it. Aside from finding a new home for veteran fan favorite Brendan Gallagher, the Habs will be looking to add a second-line center, a top-six winger, and a rugged right-shot D-man this summer. They almost checked off one box ahead of the trade deadline, and while Hughes would not confirm the quote-unquote big trade he almost completed ahead of the deadline, multiple sources have told the fourth period the Montreal Canadiens had agreed to a trade with the Maple Leafs for winger Matthew Knies. As I spoke about on DFO Rundown Insider Edition earlier today, so I guess June 4th when this article was published, in exchange for Matthew Knies, the Canadiens were going to send highly touted prospect Alexander Zharovsky, whose name I mispronounced in the segment, my apologies, another top prospect, and 2 first-round draft picks to Toronto. Sources also confirmed the second player was not Michael Hage nor David Reinbacher. Oh boy, that is a crazy trade price, and we have to dive into the economics of it all. Does that make sense? Is that fair? Knies for Zharovsky, another prospect, and 2 firsts? Let's continue with the article. According to sources, the Canadiens approached the Leafs late in the day on deadline day about the Knies trade, which Toronto accepted, but the Leafs were unable to get the trade filed ahead of the 3 p.m. Eastern deadline. Hughes said this week the significant deal he tried to complete at the deadline can be revisited in the summer, but does John Chayka taking over as GM of the Leafs change things? The Knies move was agreed upon by then GM Brad Treliving, and it's unclear if Chayka will entertain this move. Now, there's an entire other part about this. Lafreniere, McTavish, who knows if these guys could be Montreal Canadiens, and then you've got the Dylan Larkin conversation as well. But ultimately, we got to get into this Matthew Knies situation here. Knies for Zharovsky, another prospect, and 2 firsts is a really big deal. We have to get into the Canadiens and their draft history to try to acknowledge where this other prospect could have been coming from and what that guy could have been. Let's go over to the Canadiens and their draft history here. So Alexander Zharovsky, of course, fantastic player. He's doing really well. We made a bunch of videos about him already. Hayden Papanickas, pretty interesting name. I mean, he didn't have a great season this year, so maybe he isn't the guy necessarily. LJ Mooney, potentially, he's a top prospect. I mean, yeah, 4th-round guy, but he was really good with the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Then you go into previous years. Atos Koivu is a guy that I think a lot of Canadiens fans would not want to see get traded because, obviously, he is the son of Saku. He didn't have a great season this year either with TPS Turku, so maybe he isn't the guy. Owen Protz is a guy that Montreal already signed, the most violent prospect in hockey, as we've dubbed him already. maybe he isn't necessarily that player. Tyler Thorpe, possible. Jacob Fowler, no. Florian Xhekaj, no. Although, maybe it is Florian Xhekaj. I don't think he has that much value, if I'm being honest. Philip Machar, Owen Beck, it's possible. I don't want to say likely. Riley Kidney, okay, no, we're getting into, like, difficult territory over here. Maybe it was Josh Waugh. That would have been pretty cool, right? Send Josh Waugh over to Toronto for Matthew Knies. Obviously, Alexander Zharovsky and the 2 first-round picks would have been the biggest value-holding assets in the trade. But for Matthew Knies, you can say that it's understandable why it would get into that territory. Knies is 6'3", 231, making $7.75 million till the end of 2032. That's a pretty good contract. And this previous season, he had 66 points in 79 games. Knies is a really strong player, and playing for a team that has struggled out the gate in Toronto since the departure of Mitch Marner. You might have to wonder to yourself, what exactly is the ceiling for Knies as a player at the NHL level? He is only 23 years old, and this is a player that's already potting up 30-goal seasons, or at least near 30-goal seasons. If he is on a better team, if he's with some better playmakers around him, if he is on a better power play, if he is on a team that actually allows him to do well and maybe play that playoff-style game, the sky's the limit, really, for Matthew Knies. Everything that you want Juraj Slafkovsky to be, Knies, you can debate, kind of has that attitude that you need out of the guy. Now, I understand you can say, hey, wait a minute, Knies doesn't score as many points as Juraj Slafkovsky, but I feel like Slav is more of a play-first type of guy. Knies has a physical element to his game that Slav inherently lacks, despite Slav having a big size. So Montreal going out there and acquiring a guy like Knies definitely would have bolstered up that second line. It would have given Demidov a really nice partner to work with. I think there's a lot to like out of Knies and him potentially coming over to Montreal. For Toronto, though, Alexander Zharovsky, I mean, we've been making a ton of commentaries about him over the past few days. He's been really strong in the KHL, 42 points in 59 games played. I think that's a pretty good pickup for a Toronto Maple Leafs team that's going to be hopefully getting Gavin McKenna. Zharovsky and McKenna on the same line sounds like a pretty good deal. And then you have Austin Matthews down the middle, assuming he stays. If he wants out like Dylan Larkin, like Matthew Tkachuk, like Quinn Hughes, then maybe you're in a different territory there. But Zharovsky still pretty good pickup if Toronto is able to get that done. Let's head over to the Habs subreddit and read what some fans have to say about this trade idea, the rumored trade deadline deal that fell through. Knies for Zharovsky, another top prospect, plus 2 firsts. Knies is honestly a dog. I would have loved him on the team. I agree. I would have been 100% okay with this trade. Knies is great and would be perfect on Demidov's other wing, but goodness, that's a steep price. 2 firsts is too much, Salty Feed said. They're going to be late firsts, though. It's kind of similar to the Dobson deal. Well, the Canadiens didn't really... I mean, yeah, no, you know what, I see what you mean. They did give up another prospect in the Dobson deal. Not just the 2 first-round picks, but Emil Heineman was also involved in that as well. By the way, Emil Heineman's been pretty good, so maybe that's actually a good thing to think about. Je ne crois pas que Hughes or... Okay, we need to polish up on the French, so I'm going to skip past that. I've never understood why we would pay that much for Knies when we have a huge hole at center. I was never a big fan of this rumor. What? This is like getting a second Slav. It would make our top 6 really good, and you can maybe slot in Newhook at 2C after. Who cares about Zharovsky? Screw those picks. Okay, that's a really funny comment. That is really funny. Screw those draft picks, man. Nobody cares about the draft picks. Would you do it if the other prospect was not like Hage or Fowler? Well, it was already confirmed it was not going to be those guys. Zharovsky just won Rookie of the Year and set a U19 record for players in the KHL. What are we doing? Him plus a prospect and 2 firsts? I get Knies is good, but his numbers are inflated by playing with Nylander and Matthews, right? Knies is a proven NHL player. Zharovsky is a maybe. Knies has a physical profile that Zharovsky doesn't. This sub is crazy. We'd be lucky if Zharovsky becomes a player as good as Knies. So I guess there are some reservations that some Canadiens fans have about this, but you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about the Matthew Knies trade price to the Montreal Canadiens being revealed? Zharovsky, another prospect, and 2 first-round draft picks to the Maple Leafs. How do you feel about this potential price? Let me know in the comments all your opinions. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.